Ancients. Welcome to the Crone Zone Conversations with the Ancients. It's Priscilla, Heather, and Terri Suzuki is our guest today. Yay! How is everybody this beautiful Sunday? Because we're doing pretty darn good. Today's show, we're going to talk about joy and happiness. And of course, Terri has one of her great stories to tell.
And anything else that happens to come up.
And then we might talk about the third eye a little bit later if we still have time. We'll have to see. We're not stuck in an hour. I've got an hour and a half always on standby when we have guests, but whatever you're up to and up for, Terri, it's great.
I'm so glad that you give me extra time because we mosey around, we take a trip. Oh my gosh.
And there's another, and I love that. I really like that. Okay, I'm going to try to see if I can see the chat room. Can you see the chat room? My eyes. I see Juno's here. Hi, Juno. And G. Covington and Indigo Jaguar. Hi, you guys. And anybody else that's here from Facebook and YouTube. Fantastic. Thank you. I think you need to turn the sound on.
Turn the sound on?
Off.
I didn't know it was on.
So when I was on Allie's show, we announced this show. So, well, you were there. So you know.
I was there, and I took you to the laundry with me. I had laundry. I've got it. I found it. We can keep it for you. I was doing laundry with you guys in my pocket and listen. And thanks for the wonderful message. It was a beautiful message from David today. Heather hasn't heard it yet, but we'll play it back so she can see it. You guys, we thought before we got started, we're just going to pull a card for the show, each one of us, just to start the show off. But like I said, it's going to be on happiness and joy. Because, we were really depressing about death and grief the other day. So happiness and joy seems like a good thing. And thank you for the thought there, Terri. That was a great idea. Look. And I have my Hi Blue Ocean, welcome. Okay, who wants to start?
Well, I have a new deck, so I'm kind of reading what it's saying, and it's Wisdom from the Oracle. And the one that it's Colette Baron Reed. And I was going to look up, but it made sense to me that the card was all that glittered if we're talking about happiness and joy.
Oh, I like that. That's perfect.
So, talking about things that are good. And I was going to look up and find out what it said because I'm still working on
learning it.
Yes.
Cool. I got the Shield Maiden. I can't ever get my card in the thing. The Shield Maiden, make plans and focus.
And I think this worked with happiness and joy because it says you need to look beyond the superficial for your happiness. So your desire to don't worry about putting on masks and things. Look beyond that and yourself as well as other people.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I am pulling cards from the Priestesses of Light. This is a serious deck. It really talks to me and kicks my butt often.
I love that.
And I pulled Go with the Flow.
Oh, I love that. Letting go, cleansing,
and receiving. So to me, this kind of speaks to the season a little bit too, that we're in the fall. We got to let go. We got to cleanse ourselves and get ready for this new season. We got to be ready to receive because in the fall we harvest. And so
that's true. And we have a full moon coming up next weekend too.
Yeah. So I, just like Heather, I am not completely familiar with the deck yet. So I had to look it up a little bit. And like I said, this deck kicks my butt. And
I love that.
So it's a great, they're talking about the priestess of the waterfall rises from the foam, When this appears in your spread, it announces a time of quiet energy and encourage you to release resistance and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Why
But
is
it
that
says
so hard for us?
it is.
And yet it goes along with my card because it says, don't be somebody you're not.
I love that.
Look beyond the
Yes.
glitter. Don't
Yes,
be somebody
exactly.
you're not. Look
Right.
beyond that.
Oh, beautiful.
But of course, this deck has to get its licks in. And so
Right.
one of the things it says, take a break from trying to force your will. Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, don't be
That has
somebody
been,
you're not.
if I could just have a theme of the whole weekend, it's stop forcing it, Terri. In fact, my dad on my journey with Jean came into it and said, because he said that to me all my life. All my life, he's like, don't force it, Terri, because I'm one that I want to use my strength and my power to
Yes.
force it.
I
And
understand.
he's like, you're going to break it. Don't force it. And I just didn't realize it was also a spiritual thing. Don't force it, Terri.
Well, that's where it comes from spiritually first, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something probably in a past life that makes us want to do that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we
Or
find
just
out
our
one day.
impatience, our human.
Our human impatience.
Yeah.
I think impatience is probably my middle name.
Right.
I don't have one, so that's probably it.
Oh.
Yeah. I use my maiden name as my middle name, but I didn't have one. So I wanted one. And it was long and my married name shorter, so I kept it.
Mhm.
Did you have anything in the journey that you wanted to share with us?
Our journey, we at least once a month, Jean and I book a journey together because we are somehow so connected, even though
You are.
until I took the class with Susan Lynn, I had never met her in my life, but we are just so connected
You are, for sure.
that we can read together and see things together. So we can actually go on a spiritual journey and do it together, co-read at the same time.
That's beautiful.
And what's interesting is that sometimes it starts with a question. One of us has a question, and maybe that guides the whole thing.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't. But yesterday, we were with Mother Gaia energy, Earth energy, and we were talking to Circenos or Pan.
Right.
And Jean, Jean is so brilliant. Jean is just a brilliant person. And she got the idea. She said, let's talk to Circenos directly to find out what he was doing. No, because remember his antlers are actually energy. It's like an energetic crown.
Right.
And during this reading, I had this weight on my head like a crown. I was wearing a crown like antlers, and it was energy. And
wow.
So we talked to him, and he was showing how that back then we were kind of like in old England, and his feet kind of melded with the earth under the robes, and that the energy coming out of his crown was actually doing kind of a sacred geometry that was both giving and getting from the earth. And he was guiding people like when to harvest, when to plant, when to
that's beautiful.
Interact with the earth. And then he showed me the people harvesting that they had little teeny crowns on too, that they just didn't notice, but they were getting his information, and how that this all acted.
They were all channeling the information. That's gorgeous.
Right. But also how that now this is broken. We get our food from somewhere else that we haven't had our energy on,
So true. We don't even know we're part of Mother Earth anymore. It's like we're on top of her, but she's not part of us or something. Right. And that's just strange.
So it was very, very interesting journey. I think there's a lot more to learn there. Sometimes it takes, we might journey, but sometimes it takes a while to understand it.
Unpack it all. Yeah. I'm still unpacking information that I received on Mount Shasta. Every
Wow.
once in a while, something clicks, and I'm like, really?
Wow.
Now? Yeah. It's amazing how long it can take. It's not
Yeah.
always just instantaneous. That's usually just the nutshell or the corn in the nutshell.
Mhm.
And then,
Mhm. Yeah. It takes a little while to get what they're meaning, and
absolutely.
sometimes it's really fast. It's
So
always nice.
how did you complete with him?
We
Did he
thanked
give you
him,
any advice or any
um, not that I
information?
remember right now. I know we thanked him and let his energy go, but he also before we actually let him go, he showed us what, pan, that every culture has a pan. Because I was
Mm,
wondering, did you only do this for England? You know,
right.
and he showed how that each culture has a pan. Native Americans have the coyote, the trickster, in
Mhm.
the Native Americans in my area. That there's Pan, there's just so many of them, but they're there
Oh, with
to,
different names, but it's
yeah,
the same energy. Sure.
yeah. So that was interesting.
Like even Mother Earth has how many different names?
Well, she showed us her crown. She had the crown
Oh,
on too, and
cool.
but she had double crowns because she's going up from the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. And so
That
it,
makes
it was
sense. Yes, it
it
does.
was it was really interesting to see a little bit of how spiritually she works.
Oh, I bet that was.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
also have, unless you want to say hi to people in the chat room before we talk about your story with joy.
Yeah. Well, I want to say hi. If uh,
Absolutely.
oh, Terry Lee's here. Hey,
Hi,
Terry.
Terry Lee.
Yeah, and
Nice to
Butterfly
have you.
Kisses and Dave Maud.
Dave
Oh,
Ott from England.
Dave Maud is connected with Circenos, and I have to tell
Wow.
you, I hope you're listening right now, Dave. Someday I want you on my show. I want to talk about your journeys. He is
Oh, yeah.
full. He has a lot of past lives that are just stunning, and I want to know more from him.
Sounds great.
Yeah, yep. And Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Hi,
So
Ruth and Cherie and Warrior Girl.
mm-hmm.
Blue Ocean.
Yeah, Juno
Everybody.
Sphere. So many of our friends are in the audience
I
that
know. Thank you
always,
guys for
It's
coming.
very nice of you to be
It's
here.
great to have you here.
Yes.
yeah,
We appreciate it so much. And it's so much fun to chat with the chat room, too.
yeah. And of course, as we chat about happiness and joy, chime on in there and
Please chime in. And
Right.
if you have a channel, be sure the moderators put it in the link.
yeah,
Put your links in the chat so that we can everybody can find you. Share
yeah.
our love and light and wealth of information. There's so many people out there with such great information to share.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
feel free always on our channel. We wish to share your links.
Yeah. Well, I'm a real newbie at all this. Despite the fact I've had a lot of these gifts all my life, I never studied them until about a year and a half ago.
That
So
seems pretty much normal right now for
Yeah.
this
COVID brought out a
community.
lot of
COVID brought
yeah,
out
studying.
a lot of gifts for
Mhm.
yeah,
sure
A
for a
lot of
lot of
studying.
people
yeah.
somehow.
Yep.
So as I tell you about my experience with happiness and joy, it may run counter, but you got to remember some of this comes from a long time ago. So um,
I think we're in a pretty open group of people that are willing to listen to pretty
yeah,
much anything and take it with a grain of salt. Keep
yep,
what resonates, and if it doesn't, let it go.
yeah,
Because we all have different experiences. And
yes,
particularly, my experiences are completely different than they were 2 years ago or even a
yeah,
year ago.
Yes.
What I first learned when Heather and I first started out 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, that information is like baby steps and miles away from where we are now. Some of it still makes sense, but some of it is like, oh yeah, okay.
That was then. That's what we understood.
Now.
Okay, now you're changing.
So, don't you find that sometimes, though, when you revisit those baby steps, sometimes they suddenly give, that when they gave you that knowledge, they gave you first grade knowledge.
Yes.
And now maybe you're in high school and they suddenly give you high school knowledge and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, when I go back and read my journals from back then, which I don't do very often, but occasionally, I find a lot of enlightening information packed into those journals.
Yeah. So I always saw angels as a kid. I often, every night, I saw angels by my bed and talking to me and, hanging out.
Cool.
I couldn't go to funerals when I was a kid because I was afraid. It was hard to tell what was real. Is there a little bit of corpse reanimation going here, or am I seeing their spirit or what? I was like, I couldn't go. They never let me go to a funeral till I was 18 because I couldn't tell what was real. And
that must be frightening. That was smart not to go.
It was, at first it was a tiny bit frightening, but kind of not too. Somehow I'm like, okay, I'm going to roll with this because this makes sense, and so I really was quite fearless about God until I had my first daughter. Then I got scared a little bit. Then I was more
has a way of focusing things.
Right. And then I was more like, well, because before, even though I believed deeply in God and was going down that religious path, I didn't put a lot of store in something, like my mom might say, well, if you do that, you're going to hell. And I'd be like, when I was a little kid, I used to answer her back and say, well, that's not the God I know. So no. And just walk away. I can't imagine trying to mother such a child. But
I think my parents felt a bit of the same.
Yeah. But around, my 20s, I started to be a little bit more like, I have kids. I really don't want to go to hell. Maybe I should take some of this a little bit more serious. Still very hard to do. But so about 1987, I was getting divorced. So I had gotten married young. I had been married for about 7 years. So I was about 27 at the time. And, it was scary and it was happy too, because I was with the wrong person. And so
it never feels good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. You're worried. Am I doing the right things for my kids? Am I going to be a good single mother? Am I, all these things. And one time I was in my house and a voice, an internal voice, kind of stopped me. And actually, I had heard this voice one other time before when I was little. So it didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to hear this, or it didn't make me feel scared or anything. And the voice, I was worried about, am I doing the right things for my kids? Am I doing the right things for God? Am I doing, and I was always kind of in prayer all the time. And the voice stopped me and they said, Terri, we only want one thing from you. I'm like, oh, just one thing? Well, that sounds hopeful. I'm like,
one.
Okay. What is it? What is the one thing you want from me? And they said, we want you to be happy. We want you to choose happiness. Always just choose happiness and be happy. That's all we want from you. And I said, okay, I can do that. And I chose happiness. I just chose it to be
That's
happy in all
beautiful.
situations.
What a good lesson to learn at that age, at any age.
Yeah. So that is how I first got introduced to this principle, just to be happy. No matter what's happening, be happy. I mean, it makes sense. It makes more sense
Absolutely
now
does make sense.
that I know we're on a journey, that we've been put in these bodies. Our souls have been put in these bodies to go on this journey. And we're just supposed to be happy and delighted that we're on this journey, no matter what's happening, even if the worst things are happening.
I know. It's hard at times, but I get that. I've gotten that message from my guides too. Not in those words and not specifically stop. This is what we want. But absolutely,
Mhm.
that message comes through over and over.
Right. And what was very nice about that message is I was able to let go of all the religious fear I had. All of it that I had only been acquainted with for a very short time, to just let it go, and don't worry about
Being
it
able to
anymore.
let go of dogma like that fast is a
Yeah.
blessing because it
Right.
takes many people years and years and years of
Mhm.
guilt before they could finally let it go. They
Right.
don't want us to feel guilt. They don't want us to feel good.
No.
They want us to do what makes us happy inside.
Hmm. And it's interesting because I only actually felt that guilt when I met my husband, and then was in kind of a holy roller um, Christianity movement, which before that I grew up Catholic. But with so many kids in our very Catholic family, we didn't have money to go to parochial school. So they sent us to catechism on Wednesday nights.
Mhm.
And unbeknownst to my mother, I was taught by radical nuns. And the radical nuns were only talking about equity, diversity, listening to what Martin Luther King was saying, and things like that. I know absolutely no dogma about the Catholic Church at all.
I love it.
You know,
That's
so I,
brilliant. You
yeah.
were lucky.
So I only picked up the fear from the other different religion.
It seems to
And
me whether you're Catholic or Jewish, it's all about guilt.
right,
I
right,
don't know. I'm
and
not either
And
one,
fear.
so I don't know. It's all about fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so I let that go. I embraced happiness.
And you chose happiness. I think we should
I
all choose happiness no matter
Yeah,
what. I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm
yeah.
not sure I can do that all the time, but I certainly try.
It's somehow, when you make this choice, it somehow adheres to your heart.
Well, you've
And
had a lot of practice.
yeah, but it's also, I mean, I've had lots of unhappy things happen in my life, but
Well,
I choose happiness. I choose to,
let's all choose happiness from now on.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's really simple. Choose happiness. Does that make you happy or not? Don't
Hmm.
do it if it doesn't.
Yeah,
That's evidently not your happiness.
yeah. Now
That doesn't make you happy, please don't do it.
I'm going to say that lesson though is a little harder to learn.
Oh, yeah.
What makes you happy and doesn't. That's a little
Well,
harder.
you have to learn what makes you happy, don't you?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe that's the lesson in learning what makes you happy.
Hmm. Yeah.
You have to think about it. Which one's gonna make me happy?
Right.
So as
I like
I,
that.
yeah, as I've grown in the spirit, as I've grown in knowledge, and as I started to embrace my spiritual dreams, and, suddenly, you know, year and a half ago, when I suddenly started embracing all of this and writing down all the old spiritual dream. I mean, if I've ever had a dream and it was spiritual, I still remember it. So I've written them all
Oh,
down.
that's wonderful. I
uh,
forget it. By the time I wake up, it's long gone.
Hmm.
well, if it's just a dream, it's gone for me too. But if it's something is spiritual, something I'm supposed to remember and learn, I remember it.
That's good.
So they, in this progression of happiness, and as I'm learning these things, my spirits gave me a code word. And when I hear the code word, I have to prick my ears up and like, learn. It's time to learn. Something's being taught to me. Learn. And so here's how it happened. It happened in a dream. And in the dream, now none of this really happened. Okay. So I'm going to, but in my dream, it was real to me. This is what the spirits presented to me. And I got in 100%. So I'm going to tell it to you like it really happened. So I had actually in person just met a whole new group of men. They were in this kind of a fraternity for adults. They were working together to help people. And I had just met them at my friend's house. And they felt like they all felt like I knew them. So like maybe we've known each other a long time, even though I've never met these people before. So in my dream, I was with my crew. I was with these people, all men. We were with them. We were on the mall at Washington, D.C. And everybody was starting to go there because ex-President Barack Obama was going to speak. And it was so exciting because this happened in about 2020, when we had, in the middle of 2020, I don't know about you, but I felt just beat up. I felt so beat up right about then.
My stream said we all had PTSD.
Yeah. So this dream engendered this just happiness and joyousness in me to be there, to get to hear him speak, to hear President Obama speak.
Oh, he's a great speaker.
Yeah, to be with these friends, to just, the joy was palpable on the mall, and we're walking and we're nodding to people and greeting them. And, I'm really short. I'm only about 5'2", and inevitably I'm too short to see what's going on. So as we're walking, the men who are much taller than me, they look over, and this is really early. We got there super early, and something happened. Something bad happened. Somebody was shooting at the president and all of the people protecting him. And we're just like, oh, something's bad's going on. And we rush over there because, our hearts are so full of love for this man. And we see that his bodyguard got shot and is on the ground. President Obama's injured. And we're like, I didn't think he was shot, but he's injured. And we had come in a big van that had this door that kind of went down, and we just rushed over there. We grabbed them and we rushed them into our van and put the bodyguard back, put President Obama in the middle, and we were rushing to the hospital to save their lives. And we're going. Okay. Now, you all know that that's not possible. Okay. But just believe for a second here, like I did. And so I'm in the van, and the president calls me over. He says, Terri, come here, come close to me, come really close. I need to tell you something. He said, Terri, I know what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to save our lives, but the Secret Service is not going to see it that way. You're going to die. When they stop the van and they have you guys get out, they're going to shoot you. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not good, He said, but here's the deal. I know what you're doing. I can feel your heart. I can feel the all of your souls, how genuine you guys are, that you really want to help us. He said, thankfully for you, the Secret Service has provided me with a password, a code word that if you say it, they won't shoot you. So here's what's going to happen. When they pull this van over, you need to be the first one out of the van. You need to walk out of the van. He said, you need to have your hands in the air as high as you can get them. Put your hands in the air. And he said, and then as you come out, you need to yell this code word. He said, yell it out. And I'm like, okay. He says, lean closer and I'll tell you. And so I get really close. And just like in the movies, it fades to black. And I don't hear the word. And I'm the first one out of the van. I'm the one that's going to get shot, And I'm like, Terry, and I find myself as it fades back to light that I am actually walking out of the van first. I got my hands up. And I'm like, Terry, you gotta yell the code word. I just close my eyes and I yell, joy. And then I probably faint. So in my dream that I'm already asleep, I faint. And it all goes to black. It turns out my code word is joy. They didn't shoot me, but there was a lot of guns looking at me. That's why I fainted. A lot of guns.
I would have too.
I don't know if you want to hear the end. The end is funny, but it doesn't have anything to do with the joy so much.
Oh, we have to hear the ending now.
Sometimes they just do things to tickle me, just to.
They do.
So I'm in the blackness.
Humor.
Yeah, I'm in the blackness. I'm laying there. I'm suddenly realizing, okay, you're still breathing. That's a good sign. And somebody wiggles my shoulder. And they said, Madam President. And I'm like, that's funny. I think I hit my head harder than I thought. I thought I heard you say Madam President. And he said, yes, I just did. Because with that code word, the power transfers to you. And I'm like, what? Suddenly opened my eyes like, what the heck? And so somehow I became Madam President for just a few seconds.
I guess that's her new name, Madam President. That's our new code name for her, Madam President.
No, it's joy.
That's hilarious. Joy's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
What a great story.
That woke me up as I'm laughing at what? That's ridiculous. And realizing they've just given me a code word. Anytime I hear the word joy, something's happening. I'm supposed to be learning something. Like I got to prick up my ears right then and there.
I think that's awesome. That's a great story. Cool. I'm going to ask my guides for a code word like that, and we'll see what I dream of, if anything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not.
But happiness and joy has been a part of your life for a really long time, and it hasn't for most people.
Yeah.
You just have fleeting moments of happiness here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking earlier that a lot of people they can resonate with happiness, but they really don't resonate with joy. And
you only read about joy in the Bible and things like that.
Or you think it's really intense happiness, but it's not according to the research that we had, because I was looking up the differences between joy and happiness. And
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. I'd like to know, because it
was interesting because I think you evolved from happiness to joy. So I think joy makes perfect sense.
Oh.
Don't you kind of have to learn what happiness is before you can actually feel joy? Maybe. I don't know.
And yet, I know that to me that would work for confidence, because your confidence gets built up to where you are confident, because happiness is external and joy is internal. So if you have enough external, it becomes internal, and then
it's that feeling you get when you're following your bliss, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're following your bliss, that feeling of joy. I don't think of myself as being joyful. No. Happy, yes. Joyful, no.
Comfortable with yourself, at peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
But there's a whole list that she found that has differences, what happiness is versus joy.
Joy is like inner contentment. You know, you're happy with yourself. You're happy with how things are going.
See, we would revert to happy immediately.
Right, happy. But you're joyful about these things. But we don't use that word joy.
Yeah, we don't very often.
Over the top.
Yeah, it's not a word. I can't even say it. It's hard for me to say because I think of it as joey when I say it the same way. Joy.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't feel like I necessarily live in joy all the time. To me, still,
you did.
Joy still happens in little bursts for me. But I
feel the same.
Sometimes the most astounding thing is when I'm doing a reading for somebody, and I mean like an hour-long reading, when I read on like Allie's show today, I call that like speed dating.
It is. Speed reading, you're right. Speed dating is a perfect analogy.
But if I get the luxury of an hour,
I highly recommend a luxury of an hour or an hour and a half with Terri, because she's phenomenal. Her readings are phenomenal. So please feel free.
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
Yeah. But sometimes during those readings, I get to feel joy for somebody. I get to feel the joy that is either in them or in the thing that's going to happen for them, and it's still such an impact. It's still,
I'm sure
it reaches down into your heart, but in your head too.
It helps them be stable and intact, secure. And you can feel that. I think that's why you can feel the joy, is because you feel that they are stable and they're secure in what they're doing. So yeah, that would be joy.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a person or a spirit that was in their life or maybe in their soul family, and they're feeling that joy and pass it on.
I have felt that. I have definitely felt that in the past. And that's the kind of joy that actually makes you want to cry. It feels so good.
Oh, yeah.
So intense, and it's just beautiful. And I don't think we have words adequate to describe what it feels like, that kind of joy and unconditional love that they send their families.
A thought occurred to me. When we talk about joy, if you're an empath and you're feeling joy, you're usually crying. And I wonder if we talk about happiness, because it's not quite so intense.
That's a good idea. That's a good thought. I don't know.
I just noticed some of the chat here.
I'm sorry, you guys. I haven't paid any attention to the chat. I do apologize. But this has been fascinating.
Well, Warrior Girl, 1113.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting take on it. I love hearing other people's take on the story. She said, to me, that dream means that you feel like you're under fire and have been given permission from one of the highest authorities to enjoy yourself first and foremost.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
That's amazing.
You saw anything else for me to highlight? Let me know, because I was not paying attention.
I also noticed that David Maud said that when he was recovering, his joy was just being able to breathe.
Oh, wow.
I'm saying, oh, absolutely. To be able to take a breath with no problems. I can see that.
Yeah. Well, just even that little breath in and out feels so good. I can feel joy even there.
It's happiness. It is joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Dave Maud, I think that's a very brilliant thing to say, because what I've noticed in my readings, I've noticed when I dream, I notice when you feel those little bits of joy, it's out of time and space.
It is.
The joy is both larger and smaller than the time.
That's true.
And so I can see you feeling joy just taking a breath. Yeah.
I can relate to Cherie. When I'm around my grandkids.
But she meant precious grandson. She wrote it.
I know. I know she.
I was going to say previous grandson. You're a psychic medium right now.
She corrected that.
Precious. Yeah. I know that when I am getting ready for a show and I'm meditating and I'm trying to lift my spirit, I often think about my granddaughters. They lift my spirit too. I feel joy as well.
And think about it, when you think about your granddaughter or your grandson, that feeling of joy is coming from within, not from without.
You're right.
It's there inside you. Yeah. And that's why it's so intense.
Isn't our breath a gift from Sophia?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. That is amazing.
So true, Juno.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The breath of life.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely, Emmy says breathing's another thing we take for granted. Mm-hmm. We do. Those of us that can.
And it's such a shock when all of a sudden you can't.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It's awful.
I mean, the power goes off at night and my CPAP isn't working. And I go to take a breath and there's nothing there. You wake up immediately and grab that thing off,
Luckily, we have a backup generator, so it doesn't last for long.
Well, it didn't last for long anyway. I was tearing it off.
One breath is all it takes.
Yeah, one grab is all it takes. One breath changes it.
I noticed Juno's sphere. She is an energy. She does Reiki and things like that. And she says, holding the ring fingers brings joy into our being. Okay. Juno sphere, do you mean like just holding them or pulling them, or what do you mean? What do you mean a little bit? I can always use a little more joy.
Is that it? How? Like right at the last joint?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. She does Jin Shinjutsu, an ancient Japanese healing art. Wow. You can hold them loosely or you can detail them. Like, oh, how interesting.
What does that mean, detail them?
I think she means like slowly feel all the little lumps and bumps and...
Cool.
Huh.
Cool.
You do it to each hand. Very cool.
Interesting. I might be doing that a little bit more. My husband would wonder, what are you doing over there? What are you doing over there?
Absolutely, gratitude is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think when you make the decision to be happy no matter what, you're given that gratitude. Gratitude is involved in that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are grateful. You are grateful. Or you can't be happy without gratitude, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you could. Maybe, I don't know. Hadn't thought about that before. Each 1/3 of the finger has a different effect.
Oh, wow. How interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that is that. I'm
going to say some people do have issues with
breathing.
Yes. Yeah.
Sending you healing energy, Cherie.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounding you in unconditional love and divine healing light.
Yeah.
Most benevolent outcome for you.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
I hope people practice happiness and joy and gratitude, because gratitude definitely is the whole heart of the whole thing.
And I'm a firm believer in what you say. Fake it till you make it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. If
you can do that too.
if you have it hard and it's hard to feel gratitude, just fake it. Fake it until you start feeling it. That's how I started out.
And same thing for happiness.
Mm-hmm.
You fake it till you actually make it. You will find that, oh, actually I am.
There are
happy.
moments of happiness. There are moments to feel gratitude about, even in a shitty day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I find that when you're in a really dark spot, things are really looking bad, you know, you can have gratitude and happiness for that breath. I can take a breath and I'm so happy about that. Or I can, you know, just even if the littlest things, just be gratitude for the
Focus on those little things.
stuff.
Because there's a lot of little things in a day to be grateful
And they
for.
all mount up.
Especially when you just came unscathed through a hurricane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're pretty grateful.
Yeah, I saw your pictures on Facebook, and you did pretty well.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And I saw your little airplane was still hanging on the front porch.
No
Would you
problem.
believe the bird nest in the wing is still there?
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised on that one. When she told me, I just was like, that's insane.
Yeah, as much blowing as it probably did or what went around it, but that nest is there and it doesn't look like it's been disturbed at all.
Crazy.
Amazing.
That bird was a
we try to
hefty
protect
builder.
our island.
Right.
Starfish just arrived. Hey,
Hey,
Starfish.
Starfish, welcome.
Hi.
Well, do you want to move on
Yes.
Yeah.
to the third eye?
Let's move on to the
The
third
third
eye.
eye.
It's about time for third eye, I think.
Well, you know, Jean helped me think about this. She said you just had a whole show on the third eye.
Thank you, Jean. We love you.
Yeah. I have to tell you that I haven't seen that show yet. I wanted to, but I've been recovering from my illness and in
Girl,
Europe.
we put 2 a week out. Who has time to see every show? We can't see everybody we want to see. We totally get that. Don't even worry about it.
I do want to see it because I want to learn more about the third eye. So, you know, I'm visual. So
and I'm not.
Clairvoyant and I see things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually see my third eye.
Cool.
So I'm looking at the chakras. They're colors and stuff until I get to the third eye. And she is blue. But and here's what I think. I think your third eye is always working no matter what. But sometimes I want her to kick into overdrive. I want her to help me with a reading or to do more. And she's a her to me. It could be a him to others, but
Well, it's your third eye. It would be a her. Wouldn't
right.
you think?
You know, I would be
I
okay
don't know.
if it was a him too in my third eye. You know, but in my case, it's a her. And when I get there, it's like a little door opens and I see a great big eyeball in there.
Are you looking out or are you looking in?
It's looking out at me.
Okay.
And in fact, I have drawn a picture of her.
I love your pictures.
Because you know, since I see things and I can't put you all in my head to see them, a lot of times I draw them so that others can see them. But
It's great that you can do that.
Yeah, this is what my third eye looks like.
Ooh, she's beautiful.
Oh, there we go.
And what are the waves on the back?
That's just
Energy?
her. I don't know. I thought it was like a root.
It's lovely.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, you know, that's kind of weird. But she's like in a box of light. And yeah, she's got a blue eyelid. She's just all blue. Am I even in the picture here yet? There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. That looks great.
Yeah. And the thing is to activate her, to get her to kick into overdrive a little bit more. I talk to her, and I talk very, very nicely to her. I'm like, hello, beautiful. Wake up right now. I need your help. Can you do that? But I always address her as beautiful. Hello, beautiful. Wake up, please.
She is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will be closed, and then the big eyeball will open up, and then I'll see her, and I'm, my chit chat with her a little bit still. She doesn't really say anything back, I'm just more like, you're looking so pretty today, and
Kind of like a cat.
yeah. And so then a lot of times then she helps bring those visions in. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is like, how do I use the third eye? What things happen when I know that we're using the third eye?
Oh, great.
So every time you're tapping into your psychic and medium abilities, you are always using the third eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's there. But I think you can wake it up more, like I do, when I need more help. And I'll just tell you 2 instances that were shocking about, I just didn't even know this existed. But to do so, I'm going to have to back up a tiny bit.
Okay.
So I have 2 learning disabilities. And, you just get around them. But one of the learning disabilities is synesthesia. And now they are starting to think it's a newish one that they really haven't known about for a long time. But it's getting play in 2 different areas by the educators who are like, what do we do about this? And by the spiritual people, because they're thinking it's actually a spiritual gift that people often develop after they've had an NDE, a near-death experience. I've had it all my life. So maybe I had a near-death experience when I was little or something, and nobody knows or nobody told me.
What does it do?
So what synesthesia does is it allows your brain to interface differently. It can do a whole lot of different things. Like one, your brain can misassociate things. So, for instance, when I worked and I had a big staff under me, we had, they had, you could dial somebody's phone number with just a 3-digit thing and get them. And I had this one wonderful teacher. And when I would go to call him, his number was 755. But in my head, immediately, before I could even say the numbers in my head, the word cowboy. So I'm calling cowboy. His name is not Cowboy. But you see, the number 755 got associated with cowboy. And
wow.
If you say cowboy, I'm going to write 755. So your brain can misassociate with things.
Interesting.
That doesn't happen that often, but what it has done for me, what it has done for me all of my life, is I have a number line in my head. You remember when you were in first grade and your teacher had a number line up above the chalk?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, to about 10. Well, I've always had that number line, but it moves. And it goes both ways. It goes past 0, to the negative numbers. It goes, and it used to make shapes. So I had a hard time learning math because as I'm trying to think about math and interface with it, my number line's making shapes, moving around. It wasn't until I took calculus that finally it worked. It's like
makes sense.
I'm like, what the hell? I've been waiting all this time for this.
That is bizarre.
Yes, it is bizarre. But what the number line doesn't, as soon as I learned calculus, it like the effect kind of dampened. It quit moving around. I'm like, I know what you do now. Don't be fooling with me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm reading somebody and I'm reading a past life, the number line is there. So as we've agreed to read the past life or given permission to read the past life, in my head, I look to the left and we go down the number line on the negative back in time.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that was easy. So when I went to my very first in-person metaphysical fair and was reading somebody, she first wanted to talk to her mom who had died, and we got her mom right away. And then she said, Terri, what I really want to know is, will I ever get married and have a family? And as I kind of closed my eyes, my third eye kind of was knocking from the inside a little bit. And I'm like, okay. And I let that door open, and she somehow let me know I was to put my hand on my head like this, like my thumb here, just like this. And I felt a little stupid reading the whole time with my hand on my head like that. The second I touched my third eye, she sent a hawk out. She sent a hawk out of my third eye.
Wow.
And the hawk went right. The hawk went right. And I'm like, why did I never look to the right before? I didn't even know there was anything on the right. Over there. What the heck? Like, Terri. Like, I didn't even know it existed over there.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, I've never asked for a reading for the future either. You always go to the past for some reason.
Well, I always, when I'm doing it online on Allie's show or anyone's, I do resist reading the future. It's very, very difficult, and it just never presented itself. So I was shocked down to my feet.
So can you do that now? Can you do that now if somebody asks for a future reading? Can you go forward? Was she showing you can go either way you want?
Yeah,
just that one time.
I still don't know. I think in person I can always do it.
Right.
In person I can always do it. I don't know if I can still do it online or not, and it may be me's the problem, not them. Anyway, so I followed the hawk down the hall, and I saw her mom in the hall. Her mom was gold. Her mom had just gold and radiating gold. So I knew it was mom, kind of down the hall. And the hawk stopped at a little apartment, and there were two kids, a boy and a girl, and the mom and a partner. I don't think she's getting married, but she still has a lifelong partner. And they were there. They were such a happy family. And I kept kind of hearing, and I just said it right away. I was like, oh, it's a sporty family. It's a sporty family. And, I see a boy and a girl, and you're so happy, like eating breakfast together and doing things together. It's a very happy family, but it's a sporty family. And so, and as I got to the family, mom, who's down in the future there too, because they can do what they want. She's like, yes, I knew it. I knew I was a grandmother. She's like all excited, man.
Oh, that's cute.
Anyway, I go back and I'm there present with the girl, and she says, Terri, you could never have known by looking at me or anything I've told you thus far that I live for sports. Well, first she said, what do you mean by a sporty family? What do you mean? And I said, well, I think it just means that they're sporty. They like to play sports together. And she said, you could not have known that my whole life, I live for sports. That is my reason for being, is sports. And so that was amazing. And, you know, of course, I don't know if it's come true yet. And I don't know if I was just reading the energy at the time, but I kind of think it's going to come true, because that was a lot of work by my third eye to take me there. And
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
I think you could probably take that one to the bank.
I think so.
I think that one's when it's that intense. My husband could tell people about the future. He would nail it every time. But
Wow.
I have the worst record ever.
Well, he
don't
would tell
even
the
go
future if things didn't change, and he would say if things don't change,
Right.
if
Yeah.
something doesn't happen,
Yeah.
or if
Oh,
you
he would
don't do
always.
something to
He could
change it,
still.
this is what's going to happen.
He could
Right.
he could take it to the bank though.
Yeah.
You
I
would.
know when I was a child, and I would often have prophetic dreams, and I would remember them, but these were small dreams about something small that's going to happen.
Mhm.
And then when it would happen, I would be like, "Oh, what happened in the dream? What happened in the dream? Am I supposed to change
I
this or
remember
keep?"
doing that as a child too.
Yeah.
When I was very, very young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
deja vu. And he was like, okay, what's going to
Yeah.
happen next?
Yeah.
They call it deja vu, but I think it's something more than that,
I think
because
it's more than
I
that
think you're
too.
right.
Absolutely.
they would come true.
Yeah.
I don't really have that kind of dream as an adult
I don't
much.
either. But I had
Yeah.
definitely had them when I was a child.
Yeah. I think as a child, I was just, you're more open, you're more willing to believe, you're more
I think that
nothing's
absolutely is
impossible
true.
when you're a child.
Nothing's impossible when you're little. You think anything can happen. Just we
Yeah.
get jaded as we get older, the way we've been raised. Hopefully,
It's been
it's
drummed out of
changing.
us.
Yeah. Hopefully that energy's changing.
Yeah. Well,
It's more,
I
more
hope you get that I was shocked. Shocked. I did not even look to the right. I don't know why I didn't look to the right, because obviously if you can look to the left, you can look to the right.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I was just
It
like,
makes perfect sense, but yeah, we always seem to want to know anyway. Clients anyway want to know what's happened in the past anyway.
mhm.
Very
Yeah,
rarely do you hear anybody ask for something in the future.
right.
I
But
just think the way that time's moving so fast right now, that timelines are merging and evolving, and I think it's really hard to tell the future. Now, there's people out there that do it. My hat's
oh,
off to them, because I
yeah.
think it's getting more difficult as time speeds up.
We're getting closer and closer to that line, and
Yes,
really
Right.
anything can happen at this point. So.
that's just my personal opinion.
I
It may
I
be
think
absolute
I think you're
BS.
right. I think you're right that this is all speeding up. I think if I practice more, maybe I can read the future more. Um,
I'm
I
sure we
know.
have many guinea pigs out there in the chat room. They'd be happy to volunteer.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's something to this thing that she wants me to do. There's something to it, because it I don't know what it means. Maybe it's like I'm in business right now, or I don't know, but it somehow
Maybe it
supports
was just
what.
creating, I get that it was just kind of creating that link so that you could look right.
And it may be that you
But
were
it
just there are certain lines that you were putting it together easier for them.
Well,
You
wait
know,
till you hear the next
transmission.
one.
okay, I'm ready.
The next one's way more bizarre.
The more bizarre, the better.
Yeah.
So
We love bizarre.
yeah, so it does. There's some sort of power when I do that. Some sort of like right away power. And at that very same event, I met a man who could run. Energy comes out of his hand and can go into you. He can find out what's wrong. He can, initiate some healing.
Yep, that's what we do.
Yeah. So you know this thing. And when I met him, I also learned about the Hara cord, which is a cord that comes from your internal center that connects you to the earth and to the heavens. And when he told me about this Hara cord, I could see it, and I could see it vibrating. And so when I see it vibrate, I know we're going to go in it. There's something's going to happen. It's going to be good. Well, this man texted me after a couple of weeks, and he said, Terri, something's going on inside me. His whole gifts and everything started when he was 19, and he had a Kundalini event. And it just started. It was right from the get-go. He had this. And so he said, Terri, I think I'm having another Kundalini event. Could you go find out? Could you find out what's going on? And I said, okay, give it a shot. So I closed my eyes and I imagined him, and I could imagine him, and I could see the Hara cord, my Hara cord vibrating. So I knew something was going on. I could feel energy from him. He's got very strong energy. And he had told me that when he wants to activate his third eye, he just does this. That's it. He just gives a little poke there, and that's it. And as I was looking at him, I, for some reason, had again this
interesting
thing to put my hand on him. And then I saw him in my head kind of poke his third eye. And his third eye started to open, and there was orangeness in there. And I got curious, and I leaned forward to look at it. He was far away from me. I leaned forward to look at it, and it sucked me in.
Whoa.
To his body. I was inside his spirit.
Wow.
I was like, whoa, I am inside you. And it was all oranges and yellows and stars. There were stars in there. It's like I was in a whole universe in there. And I'm like, this is so cool. And of course, me being me, I had to turn a few somersaults. You're free of gravity, so why not?
Why not?
And then I'm like, okay, we're around here. And then I went and looked out his eyes. I could look at his eyes.
Whoa.
I was like, oh man, that is cool. That is so cool. And I'm like, okay, come on.
Describe his house to him.
Like, get it together here, Terri. You're here for a reason. And I'm like,
it'd be hard not to be curious.
Oh, I got more curious.
Of course you did.
But so I'm like, okay, Terri, hang on. You're here for a reason. So spirit, because I could feel some spirits in there too. Spirit, is he having a Kundalini awakening? And they said, yes. Very plain, very plain. In fact, the voices that I heard were almost computerized, almost like a computer. And I said, oh, well, that's really interesting. Why is he having another Kundalini event? And they said, remodeling, remodeling, remodeling.
All righty then.
Okay. So then I'm like, I kind of got closer to the edges, and I could see that this yellow, that his vessel was kind of made up of these big bricks. And as I got closer to the bricks, they said, repointing, repointing, repointing. And I'm like, oh, okay. What you don't know is in my hobby is restoring old houses. I love doing that kind of work. And repointing is when there's loose mortar, or the mortar's falling out, and you have to put mortar in. It's called repointing. And the funny thing is he owns he owns a furnace business, and so he knows what repointing is too.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay. And so I told him they are remodeling and repointing to strengthen the vessel, that you're a little older and your vessel is getting a little bit used, and you need a little bit of remodeling in there to strengthen it and to
That's so cool.
You know? And then he's like, thank you. But to be honest, later on when I talked to him, he didn't quite hear all that. He was a little bit in la la land. I had to tell him again.
Oh.
And as I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's time to go, but I'm still looking around a little, because he's given me permission to be there.
Right.
And then I see it. Oh my God. So he had told me that he was a reincarnation of Mark in the Bible, the Apostle Mark.
Wow.
And Mark, right? Yeah, Mark. And I was going over there to maybe take another look through the eyes, because that was interesting.
I bet.
And I went by his heart, and that's when I saw Mark. I saw Mark, and I'm like, oh, I see Mark. And I'm like, I see Mark. And he's very bluish, and he's smiling like, you really were. Oh my God, there he is. And I'm getting a little beclamped, because anytime I'm around Jesus or Jesus people, I get a little beclamped,
Mm-hmm, sure.
Oh, it's And then the guy wakes up. He's like, what are you doing in there? What are you doing? And I'm like, it's Mark. Now, his actual name is Mark, too. So it's like,
right.
He's kind of like, what? And I'm like, okay, bye. And I get out. I suddenly get sucked right out.
Right. What a trip.
Yes, what a trip.
What a trip.
Yeah.
So Mark was around his heart space.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So that was
wow. So our little piece of our soul is right there in each and every one of us.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Whew. What a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So third eye's interesting, and
third eye's very interesting.
I get sucked into one,
Wow.
Exactly.
I've only had one experience where I was visual, because I hear and know things. But the one experience I had, I was a Nazi officer, and I saw myself in the uniform, an SS uniform, standing in Paris with my aide-de-camp next to me, who is my daughter in this life.
Wow.
Paris was burning in front of us. And I got the message that the karma was done, and that we had basically raped and pillaged our way through Europe during the Second World War. And that lasted maybe 5 or 6 seconds. And I was just, what? Interesting. There was more of a message to that, but that's really the only time I've had a visualization, other than when I'm asleep and it obviously traveled. Mm-hmm. I sat in the back seat of a car with my dad after he died, and we were in my mother's car in her driveway having a conversation, and I was like, but you're not supposed to be here. But nevertheless, we had the conversation, and it was. I woke up crying because I missed my daddy.
That was
wonderful. He was telling me, "Yeah, you should marry David."
Good for him.
Yeah, I was waffling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody in the audience is a little freaked out about the SS guy, we've all been
everything to everybody.
We've been everybody. So
everything to everybody. Yeah, that because I hate injustice so much and violence of any kind, it was really a really rude awakening
Yeah.
because I'm 180 degrees from that, whoever
Right.
that person was. So it just goes to show you, we have been everything to everybody at one point.
And I was reading some of the comments, and I
Good.
had one for David and Dave Maud, because he was talking about how we're always under attack from the dark, and because they're afraid of our gifts. And I wanted to address that in two ways. I know you have something to say about that too, because you've taken care of it. But the other thing I wanted to say is that you can, instead of having to do it every single day, you can set up a protective type energy around yourself and just feed into it on occasion, but it is a continual protection, so that you don't have to every day. And if you forget, you're going to get clobbered. No, this is something that you can set up, like it's like a time release that you can let it go and it will protect you and just keep going. But like I said, I know she has some things to say about it, because she used to get clobbered every once in a while, and you've pretty well taken care of that. And you ought to let them know how you did that.
Yeah.
She's talking about psychic attacks. We've talked about that before, psychic attacks. I didn't know what they were, but they're basically that voice in your head that tells you something bad's going to happen, or you're in danger of some sort. It's always it's always a negative something or other. They go for my family. They're always, something's wrong with my family. And I got it a lot when I was first coming into my gifts. I got attacked a lot, and it's just weird things that you don't think you would even think come into your head. Just stray random thoughts that are weird, that aren't you. Now, they probably have you in a nut house if you went and told somebody this, but this is for real, I guarantee. So I got it a lot. They even used David's face coming at me like Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice. Right. With his face telling me, I'm your husband and I'm here to take your soul. I'm like, yeah, right. Like he would want to do that. I was aware enough to know what to say, and it just dissipated. But I also surround myself in white light and just love bomb them, explode out white light of love, and that dissipates that dark energy.
That's true.
We also have orgone pyramids at each corner of the yard, and we have created a pyramid, a safety pyramid around us that we feed. And do I do it every day?
No,
only in the beginning.
They self-feed. We just boost them every once in a while.
Exactly.
But they do self-feed, but you have to get them to the point where they can do that. And that's why I'm saying there's energy that you put around you to protect yourself. You can make it self-sustaining.
Self-seeding.
Right. And so it will take care of itself, that you are taken care of at all the time. So you don't have to worry about forgetting about it. When you remember, then just give it a little extra boost. But it's
putting more energy into it at the beginning is better.
Right.
I mean, helps. So it makes it easier to sustain.
So it'll make your whole life easier.
Now, there's some people that don't believe this. They say, oh, if your energy's high, they can't attack you. Well, that's wrong. In my opinion, that's wrong. I think I have pretty high energy, and I don't see any reason to be attacked, but it happens.
But she knows how to fend them off too.
Yeah.
You learn over time.
Right. I know that one of when I was younger, I got a lot of that.
Did you?
Yes. And in fact,
I shared that. It's important for people to know it's a real thing.
Yeah. Even something very much like them using David's face, where they like used, I want to say, my grandfather's face, who's a very loving person, and then it wasn't actually him, and I knew it, but somehow knowing that made them go away.
Yes.
But I just the fact, and I didn't feel any fear of my grandfather or anything like that. And that's weird, because a lot of people then would probably then like, oh, it's a dream about my grandpa, I got to stop that, because
there was no question
things,
in my soul that it was David at all. That it just was automatic. It wasn't something I thought about or anything. It was just like bullshit.
yeah,
You know, it was instantaneous, and thank God for that, because if I'd had to think about it, I would have been scared to death.
Yeah.
And so those things did happen, and basically I called bullshit on them too. And but nowadays, what I do kind of for this protection all the time is, for some reason, I see, even when I'm not inside somebody's body, I see a little nugget of gold in everybody's chest, and that is God. That's the little bit of God in each of you. And so a lot of times what I do, and it seems like since I've been doing this, they don't really bother me very much, is I just rest in that piece of God. If I got a little teeny piece of God in me, I'm a little God. And you can
love. And the
and I
last thing they want is love.
Yeah, they don't want anything to do with unconditional love.
Yeah, you're messing with God. That's not good. You're not going to come out ahead on
You
that.
can't beat God. You can't beat love. You just can't.
God is love. So that I just kind of rest in that little gold piece. Just
I love that. A little gold
kind of
piece.
imagine it, and
it's always with you.
I haven't had any attacks in a while, but I'm going to add that little gold piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
enough energy all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's not something I have to imagine all the time, or, once I kind of recognized it in myself and in others, then it's just something I'm like, oh yeah, that's there. That's always protecting you. That's
always protecting
love. It's right.
And you know what? That is simple and something any of us can do in a heartbeat. Literally put that spark in there and know that that's our safety. Nobody can mess with God.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
And we're all fractals of him.
And we're all fractals of him.
So,
right.
She.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one thing I do to
I love that.
Keep that away. And sometimes, though, it doesn't exclude learning things, though. So just because something might, so for instance, even though I know about the little gold in my chest and everything, one time I was sleeping, and my best friend is a realtor, and I suddenly saw a house that she was trying to sell. I didn't know if she had this house trying to sell, but I saw the spirit of the man that had lived there still there. He's trapped a little, and he's uncomfortable. He's not bad, but if you go into that house, you're going to feel really uncomfortable because he's hanging around there. He's skirting around the edges because he doesn't know where to go. And so the next morning I called her and like, hey, how you doing? Are you trying to sell a house that looks like this? And she said, yes, go pull up this Facebook right now. And I'm like, yeah, that's the house.
Wow.
She's like, what's the house? And I said, well, there's a spirit in there. It's the spirit of the guy who died. He's still stuck. If you want to sell this, you're going to have to get rid of him. And you could just ask him nicely to go. He's not bad. He's just afraid, So even though I have the little gold, it does not preclude me from learning something negative, spiritual kind of, or I don't know how to exactly.
That's not to me. That's not negative. That's helping somebody.
You just helped him. You helped him. He was lost.
Yeah.
So I don't see,
and maybe you
really
saw him because he saw the gold nugget.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Anyway, that's
interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid.
About 5 minutes. Not even quite 5 minutes. Do you want to address anything in the chat room? Because I haven't looked in a while.
No,
that was fascinating.
the last thing.
Wow. Great conversations today.
Mm-hmm. Junosphere has a good thing about fear. And I love that.
Is it this? Oh, look, I picked the right one.
Yeah. You know, we've all
that's so true.
Before. Yeah. But what I like is that she says the universe has other plans. Best to drop your oars and float.
You're right. And go with the flow, because you can't make anything happen. You just have to ride.
You have to go with the flow. If the current's going to take you there, whether you want to,
whether you want it or not. So you can paddle against it.
You can enjoy the ride, or you can fight it.
You know, that's when we have issues, when we're trying to paddle upstream.
Yeah,
it just is. You got to go with the flow for sure.
So she's right. Best to drop your oars and float.
Yeah.
Anything else I need to address here? Because my phone is like, whoa. I think we're good.
Hey
guys, good. Thanks everybody for being here today.
Thank you, everybody. And send out the love to everybody. And the white light and the healing light for those who need that light.
And there's a lot of people in Florida right now that can use some white light. Even in our town, we were so lucky. Other people have lost everything just 3 or 4 blocks from here.
Right.
So there's
the storm surge. The storm didn't hurt them, but the storm surge sure did.
Yes, absolutely. And Terri, thank you so much for coming and playing with us again.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was great hearing the tales and not just hearing the stories, but seeing where they go from there, how they apply to us. That's great.
So interesting.
Thank you.
Well, I like telling stories. Obviously, in my family of origin, telling stories is
you do it very
must be thing. So
it's wonderful. Sorry. Who's your friend? Who's your friend?
Snuck into my lap. This is Mia.
Hi, Mia.
She's like, you have been in front of the computer too long.
That's my dog that is been down the hall staring at us and breathing hard.
Yeah.
She hasn't barked, so that's a good thing.
She's like, don't you know it's ham time? Ham time. I need a ham snack.
Yeah. It's my puppy's dinner time. Right. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. You know how much we love and appreciate each and every one of you. And I can't wait to go back and read the chat. I'll have to do that when I can. Anyway, much love to everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Dave Maud, want to talk to you someday.